Oral questions by members.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over 900 days ago, water and sewage services failed at the Lakeview Trailer Court outside of Fraser Lake in my riding. This property is owned and managed by the provincial government. Over 900 days of no running water, no flushing toilets, no showers, no ability to do laundry, or any other basics that most people take for granted. Does the minister responsible for lands think this is acceptable? And when will this government get off its backside and fix it?
Minister of Lands.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you so much for the question. I understand that this is in your riding, and this is an issue that we are working hard to fix. Everybody deserves a safe and secure place to call home. And the province doesn't want to be a landlord in this case, but because when the owner left without helping, we stepped in to help. So we are working to get this work done this summer. There's a small window, and we're going to ensure that all of the residents have a safe and secure place to call home.
Leader of the Official Opposition Supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the minister for that answer. Unfortunately, it's the same answer the residents have received the year before and the year before that. They're working on it, promise it should get done over the course of the summer. In the meantime, what we're seeing is bottled water and porta potties being provided for the residents in that neighborhood, on those trailers. And the good folks, quite frankly, have no other choice. There is no other housing available. I doubt the minister has ever used the porta potty in minus 30-degree temperature, and I can tell you something I have, and it's not a pleasant experience. Can the minister today commit that this will be resolved this summer, not just another promise to do this? And can I go back to telling my constituents that the porta potty solution will finally get flushed?
Minister of Water and Land.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. And again, thank you. I appreciate you asking if I've ever used a porta potty in minus 30-degree weather. You know what? We can talk about it in the hallway, but it was interesting. It was an interesting experience. I understand the frustration, and I absolutely do not blame them at all. I worked for a while in helping tenants in that way, and it is a stressful and tough experience. When I was a journalist, I did a lot of stories on bad landlords not doing the jobs or not fulfilling the responsibility that they needed to fulfill for their tenants. So we're doing everything we can as a long-term solution. We're continuing to explore options to replace the water and sewer infrastructure that was poorly maintained in the past by the owner. In the interim, we are doing everything we can to make sure residents are safe. We've halted pad fees for residents. We are supplying clean drinking water for them, and we understand the window for helping these tenants is small because we've got to get the construction cracking soon, and we are actively working on that, and we'll have an answer for them very soon, and we'll share it with you as well.
Member for Richmond Queensborough.
Garrett Cole Sidawi is appearing today at the Penticton Law Courts facing charges of 2 counts of assault, mischief, endangering life, flight from police, driving with a suspended license. Will the Attorney General stand in her place and condemn these vile actions?
Members, we have discussed this topic before. Shh. Members, Chair is not guided by anybody who's making comments. I'm just reminding the House what we have already dealt with these issues, but the Attorney General has the prerogative, wants to answer. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker. I think the member would know as a lawyer that something that's before the court right now is something we should not be commenting on. especially something that's before the court today. So I won't be offering a comment on that.
Members, enough. Member, you have a new question?
That's very interesting, Mr. Speaker. Here we have a government saying they cannot comment on a case that's currently being investigated and before the courts. At the same time, this Premier has no problem commenting on a major case investigation and a case that will be before the courts. To the Attorney General, will the government make up its mind and decide if they are going to follow their own rules?
Member, the chair has already provided guidance on sub judice before. And now, if again, I caution members to be careful. Again, your prerogative, Attorney General, if you want to answer, please proceed. Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We on this side have every confidence in our justice system to investigate, to lay the charges for the BC Crown Prosecution Service to do their independent work, and the justice system and the judiciary to act in an independent fashion, and we'll keep on upholding that system. Thank you.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members.
Mr. Speaker, this government claims to support British Columbians, yet 1 in 10 live below the poverty line. 1/3 of teens report needing but not seeking professional mental health care. 6 people are dying every day from a poison drug supply, and homelessness continues to rise. The absence of affordable housing, accessible health care, a robust social safety net, and community connection have created the difficult conditions we are seeing today. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Premier, in a time crying out for transformative change, what is your vision for the future of BC, and what exactly are you doing in 2025 to realize it? Thank you.
Minister of Housing.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. I thank the member for the question. The member knows that because we've met to talk about the need for expanding more affordable housing options for everyone. We've discussed options for seniors in this House, and of course we want to provide options for youth as well. The member will know that not only are we expanding affordable housing options for young people. I was just in Kamloops visiting a site that's just opened for young people. I saw the hope in people's faces when they get to see a place and it's theirs. We want to be expanding that in communities throughout the province. But we also are providing rent supplements for young people that, so that they can get into market rental housing, so that they can find housing that perhaps is just outside of their income bracket, but can provide some certainty for them to stay in their communities. We know there's a lot more work to do, but we are doing that work right now.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, the work you're carrying out is not meeting the moment. There's much more to this than simply expanding housing. British Columbians deserve more from their government. They deserve barrier-free access to health care, mental health support, affordable housing, we've discussed, accessible public spaces to feel like they belong in this province. We deserve a government that can prove that it cares for our collective well-being, that our grandchildren will have a livable planet, that we will be met with care and support when we seek help, and that our voices matter at decision-making tables. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Premier, what conditions do our communities need for you to feel like your vision is being met? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Again, thank the member for the question. All those things that the member described are the same values that we have, the same aspirations we have for young people in British Columbia, in all of our communities. I don't think, Honourable Speaker, I don't think there's a member in this place that doesn't want the same thing for every single young person, whether they're in our family, whether they're in our community, whether they're our neighbours. And so I appreciate the member raising this, but housing is central. We understand that when you have housing, housing is healthcare. Housing is the ability for people to get ahead in the economy, Honourable Speaker. It's central to everything we do. And so that's why we've put so much attention. That's why the Premier has made housing, investments in affordable housing, one of the central pillars of his work since he's become Premier. The largest expansion in affordable housing in the entire country, Honourable Speaker, happening here in British Columbia. We know that we need to ensure that there are holistic supports in place. We're going to continue to do that work. Look forward to working with the member to make sure that the vision that he described is a reality for young people across British Columbia.
Member for Peace River North.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Today, I'm advocating for Universal Ostrich Farm about an issue that's international, national, provincial, and can even affect my own region or my own farm, and cross over to all different types of animal species. This isn't a particular farm. It isn't just any regular farm. The farmstead in question is conducting cutting-edge research into antibody development that could help fight the avian flu and innovate solutions to treat viruses into the future. Yet despite having no infection currently and strong commitment protocols, the CFIA is moving to destroy their entire flock. Based off of outdated policies, my question, Mr. Speaker, is to the Premier or to the Minister of Agriculture: will you commit to standing up for this farm and advocate to the federal government and the CFIA to consider a CFIA exemption or alternate options instead of blindly enforcing mass culls?
Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start out by saying that avian influenza has become incredibly challenging for poultry and egg farmers in British Columbia, and my heart goes out to all farmers who have had impacts or outbreaks on their farms. Avian influenza, as the member knows, is a federally regulated disease, and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is the lead on investigating and responding to this virus. Our government has been helping in the fight against avian flu by working directly with farmers, providing support for testing, mapping, and surveillance. We have a table that we've pulled together with all of the feather flocks in what we're calling the peace times as we prepare for the next very intensive threat of AI expected in September. I think it's important to remind this chamber that avian influenza is a highly, highly pathogenic virus. Mr. Speaker, it is deadly and it's dangerous. If it mutates into a widespread human illness, the impacts would be catastrophic, and that is why severe measures are taken when it spreads into domestic animals. That's the context for why the federal government, CFIA, is taking the steps they take.
Member supplemental.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I am here as a farmer myself. I've dedicated my life to being an ambassador to farming. There are different ways forward than doing these outdated mass calls. Yes. There are different types of farms, different types of industries, and different ways that we can approach how we treat this item. Animals are being culled in mass numbers all over North America. And we are not looking into major strategic ways going forward to deal with the fact of these viruses. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Premier or to the Minister of Agriculture: what steps are you going to take to save these 400 healthy, antibody-rich, and H5N1 immune ostriches? And please indicate how the culling of 400 magnificent, healthy, irreplaceable dancing ostriches can be humanely killed.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2022, avian influenza struck the BC poultry industry, devastating a really important part of our agriculture sector. In attempts to get it under control, CFIA had to depopulate millions of poultry birds because that is the only effective way that we have to stop it right now. It is very emotional for all farmers who have to go through this. I have sat with farmers in tears after their barns are depopulated. We are very concerned about the emotional toll that avian influenza is taking on our farmer community, and we make sure that they always know they can reach out if they need help. But it is extremely difficult on the farmers and their entire families. It also takes a financial toll. It has huge implications for food security, as we've seen in the United States. I want to acknowledge that the farmers that are visiting us in the House today are going through an incredibly difficult situation. I've committed to meeting with them after question period, Mr. Speaker, and their MLA from Kootenay-Monashee is also joining that meeting, and I've also invited the MLA from Peace River North to join. I have no problem sitting down with that farmer.
Member for Langley Abbotsford.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Yesterday, in estimates, the Minister of Transportation confirmed that 4 new ferries are being brought online, and while 4 aging ferries are being retired the exact same time. No net increase, no added capacity, just $1 billion merry-go-round. It's the same story as Patolo Bridge replacement, where this government spent over $1 billion to replace a 4-lane bridge with 4 lanes. In both cases, British Columbians are paying more but getting exactly the same. My question through you, Speaker, to the Minister of Transportation. Can the Minister explain how replacing 4 ferries with 4 ferries, like replacing 4 lanes with 4 lanes, is supposed to solve the chronic delays, long sailing waits, and service gaps plagued by the BC ferry system?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. As I told the member yesterday, and the member's aware, BC Ferries is not a Crown corporation. It is an independent agency. It is currently embarked on modernizing its fleet. It is getting 4 new ferries as approved by the Ferry Commissioner, who is an independent individual with specific responsibilities. Just because you replace 4 with 4 does not mean you get identical capacity, Mr. Speaker. You can get increased capacity if you're building modern, larger ships. In the same way, Honourable Speaker, as when you build a new 4-lane bridge that is literally twice the size of the old bridge, you're not going to get trucks taking up both lanes, Honourable Speaker. We are designing and building infrastructure to meet the needs of British Columbians today and for tomorrow, whether it's highways or whether it's ferries, whether it's schools or hospitals, and we are going to continue doing that.
Member for Kelowna Mission.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During Sikh Heritage Month, many of us celebrated Vaisakhi. But we were also reminded of this government's election promise from 5 long years ago to establish a South Asian Canadian Heritage Museum or Cultural Centre. Surrey City Council unanimously supported this initiative last year, yet there's no funding allocated in the current BC budget, and in estimates, the minister was unable to provide a timeline. Was this just another empty election promise? Or when will we finally see a plan?
Minister of Tourism and Culture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Our government believes that recognizing the incredible contributions that South Asian communities have made to our province is crucial. We've done that through supporting our museums, and we'll continue to do that work. In fact, the member might not know, but we're currently in consultation with the communities, and I say communities because there are members of the South Asian community from all across this world, not just India or Pakistan, but indeed communities all over the world have a diaspora from that community. Fiji, that's my family connection to the community through my husband and his family. So we're in that process now. We want to make sure that communities in BC of South Asians are engaged in the consultation. There wasn't appropriate or enough response, I think, from some communities in this province, and so our working committee, who have been advising me, asked me to extend the consultation to ensure that we had appropriate response from rural British Columbia in particular, where we didn't have enough response to understand fully what those communities wanted to see, to celebrate their culture, to acknowledge who they are, and to acknowledge the important work they've provided in growing this province. So we're doing that work now, and I'm happy to take more questions and work with the community to see their needs met. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Member for Surrey
Mr.
North.
Speaker, it's clear this was all about politics. Maybe they will bring it back for the next election. Why does this government only care about my community during elections?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and I want to thank the member for the question. First off, I reject the premise of the question. We have the member has the privilege of sitting over there and looking over at the many faces from the South Asian community that are represented in government. I can assure that.
You can't even get your members to show up for a vote, dude. You can't even get your members to show up for a vote if you want to be in government.
Yeah, I won't take the bait from my friend across the way. I just will say that we have done a considerable amount of work to engage with the South Asian community. I can share with the member, because I was involved in this process as well. It's not just a building. We want to make sure that when something gets built, it represents the diversity of our community, that people see in that building, in the artifacts that are there, what's being presented, a reflection of who we are. You don't just put a building up. Anybody can just put a building up. We want to make sure that the community has buy-in, the community understands what's being put in there, who's being represented, and how it's being represented. And that takes proper consultation. My friend from Tourism, Arts and Culture is doing that work. My friend, the Minister of Agriculture, was doing that work. We want to get it right, and that's what we're doing.
Hear, hear.
Member for Columbia River Revelstoke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Recently, the Ministry of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship sent out a half-baked survey monkey on land use to a handful of residents in the Columbia Valley and the Kootenays. No advance notice, no posting on a website, and no media release whatsoever. Residents are already alarmed at an increase in arbitrary backcountry closures without meaningful public consultation. Can the minister give an explanation to prospectors, hunters, and everyday backcountry users why their access is being cut off at an alarming rate?
Minister of Water and Land.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you so much for the question. Backcountry use is not being turned off at an alarming rate. In fact, not at all.
Members.
Speaking with so many of the backcountry, people who love the backcountry, our job as government is to get people to fall in love with nature. Because when you fall in love with nature, you want to protect it and help it. And that is what we're doing. The survey was intended to understand where folks use the backcountry, how they use it, and what their values and priorities are. I know it did cause a bit of alarm, and I don't disagree with you that perhaps we could have done a bit better communicating what our intentions were in the survey, but the very last thing we're going to do is turn the backcountry off from folks who love to use it.
Member for Delta South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my town of Ladner, The Willows complex has been a red door housing and BC housing disaster, only built in the 1980s. Mr. Speaker, in January, tenants of the Ladner Willows complex building asked us for help. Their homes were set up for demolition and they needed BC Housing to explain how their rent subsidies could be used in the private market. These were vulnerable low-income tenants already facing discrimination from landlords, simply asking for a one-pager to help them relocate with dignity. We called, we emailed 5-6 times and heard nothing from BC Housing through my Ladner office. All we got, an email from the minister's political staff. How can this premier defend a system where displaced tenants are ignored for months?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We want to ensure that everyone has access to housing in the communities that they love. The member knows that we have 300 units of housing that's under construction right now in the member's riding, in my community as well. This particular project has been a challenge. The member is well aware that we came forward with a proposal to build housing for those individuals, and Council rejected the proposal.
Member.
The member is correct. It did happen. And so what we were asked to do was go back, redraw, go back and engage with the community, and we have come forward with a new proposal, and it appears that we're going to get support from local government to do that, Honourable Speaker. The biggest challenge we have with housing, Honourable Speaker, is not the dollars. It's to ensure that we're making sure that local governments support it, and it's done in a way that the community supports. The member knows this answer. I appreciate perhaps they don't have enough material to ask questions today, but asking questions that he already knows the answer to is not using this time well.
Member for Boundary Milkameen.
It is apparent that this government has failed to meet their Clean BC targets. Yesterday, the minister stood with the Greens to announce another program review. 7 years in, this government's answer to failure is not action. It's more reviews and more empty promises. Does this government really need a review to tell this House what we already know? Their virtues don't fit reality, and they have no hope to meet their own targets.
Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions.
Honourable Speaker, when you embark on an initiative as important as Clean BC, you put in mechanisms, and this happens in legislation all the time, frequently supported by the member and her colleagues, Honourable Speaker, to review that legislation. That is true of the Clean BC targets and Clean BC legislation. There was a review that is legislatively required for next year. We moved that review forward, working with members in this legislature and the BC Green Party, which it seems to me makes a lot of sense. In other words, Honourable Speaker, what they're suggesting is don't follow what the legislature passed into law. Fair enough. What is less acceptable is that they are opposed to every possible action to address climate change, Honourable Speaker. They're opposed to electrification. They're opposed, the Leader of the Opposition, to the North Coast transmission line. They're opposed, Honourable Speaker, to wind projects. They're opposed, Honourable Speaker, to the low carbon fuel standard. Honourable Speaker, they are opposed to everything we can do to address climate change, which also serve to build our economy, Honourable Speaker. That's their problem, Honourable Speaker. But doing a review of those programs to make sure they're working for people, that's a good thing to do.
Member for Kamloops Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Here's the problem. This government did not campaign on perpetual reviews. This government campaigned after 7 years in government saying they still had all the answers moving forward. In fact, when it comes to their climate targets, here's what the then Minister of Energy said during an October 7th debate that I was a part of. When I said they weren't going to meet their targets in 2030, she said, "There's no doubt we have to do everything we possibly can to reach the targets that we have," and that's exactly what our government has been focused on all the time, Mr. Speaker, except they've now admitted they're never going to meet their targets. In fact, let's look at the reviews they have. South Asian Canadian Heritage Museum, well, that's under review, further review. Ministry spending is under review. Didn't campaign on that. ECOM's 911 review. BC Timber Sales under review, Mental Health Act review, Provincial Health Services Authority review, and now a Clean BC review. And Mr. Speaker, those last few reviews, we have the former Minister of Health who destroyed our health system now reviewing energy projects from, and a former energy minister who couldn't bring forward energy projects reviewing the health services, and they're going to somehow find a solution. Mr. Speaker, this government did not campaign on reviews. What they actually campaigned on are a string of broken promises. So here's a suggestion for the Premier. Instead of manufacturing so many confidence votes over the next few weeks, why doesn't the Premier just save everyone a little bit of time and the gamesmanship, go and visit the Lieutenant Governor today, and let the voters of BC give the Premier a review of his failed leadership?
That's enough, members. Thank you. That's enough. Minister of Energy. Minister.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. An opposition that is opposed to electrification projects, opposed to the energy we need for the future, opposed to every single...
Members.
Honourable Speaker, I think the BC Liberal alumni should be patient. We gave them an opportunity to ask their question, and I'm happy to respond to that question, Honourable Speaker. What you're seeing...
Minister will conclude.
Honourable Speaker, our government is taking action in these areas. We're taking action with it this week alone, with a second call for power, Honourable Speaker, that will drive economic growth in this province. Will drive, Honourable Speaker, an expression of interest into base capacity projects, Honourable Speaker. We're taking action on the low-carbon fuel standard, saving and building jobs in Prince George, Honourable Speaker. We're taking action, and all the member has is, all they have, because they are so disunited about everything, Honourable Speaker, so disunited about everything over there. All they have, Honourable Speaker, all they want is a provincial election. Well, I understand, Honourable Speaker, I couldn't find anybody who thinks that another provincial election is what we need, Honourable Speaker. What we need is action on the economy. What we need is action in response to Donald Trump. What we need is action on health care and education, and that is exactly what this government is delivering.
The bell ends the question period.